I listened on the burner phone as the loan shark cracked open the back of the solid gold watch, expecting to see $1 million of Swiss engineering, and instead found a glob of superglue and a piece of plastic. My son was screaming in the background, begging for his life, while the mobster read the message I had carved into the gold with a diamond scribe. Time's up. They thought I was a shaking, helpless old man rotting in the basement. They forgot I was a master watchmaker, and I had just swapped the heart of their salvation with a $5 toy. Before I show you how I built the decoy, hit subscribe. This is the story of the magnum opus. The second hand of the grandfather clock in the hallway sweeps past the 12, moving with a silent hydraulic smoothness that only a movement built in 1920 could achieve. It is a comforting rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. I am sitting in my wingback leather armchair, the one they tried to sell on Facebook Marketplace last week for $50 because it smelled like old people. I retrieved it from the garage an hour ago. My back screams in protest, the discs in my spine grinding together like gears filled with sand. But I don't care. Pain is just a signal. It's data. I take a sip from the glass on the side table. It's lukewarm tap water. The glass is chipped at the rim. It is the only vessel I have used for 3 months. Condi told me that crystal was for people who don't shake, so I was relegated to this jagged piece of trash. I let the tepid liquid slide down my throat. It tastes like copper and chlorine. It tastes like victory. On the desk in front of me, illuminated by a single focused beam of an architect's lamp, lies the heart of the magnum opus. It is beautiful, a triple-axis tourbillon. To the uninitiated, it looks like a confused knot of springs and gold wheels. To me, it is a universe. I pick up my loop and fit it into my right eye socket. I watch the balance wheel breathe. It oscillates at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It is perfect. It is truth. Unlike my son, it does not lie. Unlike my daughter-in-law, it does not consume more than it gives. The digital clock on my burner phone flips. 11:58 p.m. I bought the phone at a convenience store 3 miles away, hobbling there in the rain while they were busy watching reality TV. It's a cheap plastic brick. It shouldn't be in this house. It shouldn't be on this mahogany desk. It rings. The sound is jarring against the silence of the house, a harsh, synthesized trill that cuts through the rhythmic ticking of my clocks. I don't answer immediately. Precision is key. I pick it up, feeling the cheap plastic casing flex under my thumb. My hand is steady, rock steady. The Parkinson's tremor that has plagued me, or rather plagued them for the last 90 days, has miraculously evaporated. It's amazing what the absence of stress and the correct dosage of beta blockers can do for a man's nervous system. I press the green button and put the phone to my ear. I don't say a word. "Dad, pick up! Oh, God, please!" It's David, my only son, the boy I taught to ride a bike. The man who, 2 days ago, discussed putting me in a state-run facility because private care eats into the inheritance. He sounds like an animal caught in a thresher. His voice is an octave too high, ragged with tears and snot. "I'm here," I say. My voice is graveled, but it is calm. "Who is this?" "It's me! It's David!" He's hyperventilating. I can hear the wind whipping around the microphone. He's outside, somewhere open, somewhere desolate. "Dad, listen to me. There's been a mistake, a huge mistake. You have to tell them." "Tell who, David? It's midnight. I was sleeping." I wasn't. I was waiting. "The watch!" he screams. "The magnum opus! The guys, the buyers, they say it's fake, Dad. They say it's a toy. Tell them it's real. Tell them you made it." I look down at the desk. I gently nudge the escapement of the real watch with a pair of tweezers. It spins, catching the light, a kaleidoscope of gold and ruby bearings. It is the finest thing I have ever created in 50 years of horology. It is worth roughly $1 million. David is currently holding a hollowed-out casing filled with a $5 quartz movement I glued in place with industrial epoxy. The watch, I ask, feigning the confusion of the senile old man they believe I am. The one in the glass case? Did you wind it, Davy? It needs to be wound. I don't know, David shrieks. Suddenly, there is a scuffle on the other end. The phone fumbles. I hear a heavy thud, like a sack of wet cement hitting the pavement. Then, a new voice. It is deep, rough, and sounds like it has been gargling with broken glass. This must be Vinny, or perhaps Vinny's associates, the creditors. Old man, listen good. Your kid here tried to pass off a swap meet piece of junk for a 6-figure payment. He says you made it. He says it's the real deal. I lean back in my leather chair. I can hear David whimpering in the background. It's a pathetic, mewling sound. Who is this? I ask again. Why do you have David? We have David because David owes us $250,000, and he tried to pay us with a paperweight. Now, I'm gonna ask you once. Is the watch he brought us the real one? Yes or no? If you say yes and I find out you're lying, I'm coming to your house next.
The threat hangs in the air. This is the pivot point, the fulcrum upon which the entire leverage of the night rests. If I say yes, they might let him go, realizing he's just an idiot. They might come here to find the real one. If I say no, well, I look at the empty glass case across the room. I look at the damp patch on the ceiling where the leak from their bathroom has stained my plaster. I think about the paper plates. I think about hunger. I think about the basement. I bring the phone closer to my lips. I don't know who this is, I say, my voice steady, devoid of fear, devoid of fatherhood. My son is in bed. He's been asleep for hours. He's a good boy. He wouldn't be out with people like you. Silence on the line. Then David's scream rips through the speaker, raw and terrified. Dad, no! Dad, it's me! Stop playing! Tell them! You have the wrong number, I say. Wait! The gravel voice starts. I press the red button. The line goes dead. I place the phone on the desk, face down. I sit there for a moment, listening to the silence returning to the room. It is heavy, but it is not empty. It is filled with a dark, heavy gravity. From the hallway, the grandfather clock begins its sequence. The hammers pull back. Dong. The first chime vibrates through the floorboards. It resonates in my chest. Dong. I pick up the loop again. I return my eye to the eyepiece. I focus on the pallet fork of the tourbillon. Dong. Somewhere in the industrial district, in the trunk of a car or the back of a warehouse, my son is learning the most valuable lesson of mechanics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You cannot force a gear where it does not fit. You cannot steal time without paying the price. Dong. I pick up my tweezers. There is a speck of dust on the balance spring. I carefully, surgically remove it. Dong. I am not trembling. My hands are the hands of a surgeon, the hands of a master. Dong. Midnight. The day is over. The debt is called in. I reach for the glass of lukewarm water and take another sip. It's terrible. It's absolutely foul. But as the clock fades into silence, leaving me alone in my reclaimed kingdom, I realize it's the best drink I've ever had. I am ready for the work to begin. But first, I have to remember how I got here. I have to remember the rust. I close my eyes, and the darkness takes me back 3 months, back to the day the shaking started, back to the day I became a ghost in my own home. The decline didn't happen all at once. It wasn't a sudden explosion, like a mainspring snapping inside a case. It was gradual. It was rust. It was the slow accumulation of friction until the movement simply refused to turn. Cut to 3 months ago. I was sitting at the head of the dining table. My dining table, bought with the commission from restoring a 17th century French pendulum clock for a museum in Zurich. The wood was solid oak, the finish impeccable, but tonight it felt like a stranger's furniture. David sat to my right. Candy sat to my left.
They were eating steak, ribeyes, seared medium rare, the smell of garlic butter and rosemary taunting the air. I was eating tomato soup. "It's better for your digestion, Arthur," Candy had said, slamming the bowl down in front of me without a coaster. She refused to call me Dad. To her, I was Arthur, or occasionally, when she thought I was asleep, the old goat. The soup was boiling hot. Steam curled off the surface in an aggressive red mist. I picked up my spoon. This was the moment, the test. For weeks, I had noticed the way they looked at me. The impatience when I walked too slow, the eye rolls when I told a story about the old days. They were sharks circling a wounded seal, waiting for the blood to hit the water so they could justify the frenzy.
I decided to give them the blood. I lifted the spoon, heavy with the scalding red liquid. I focused on my wrist. I bypassed the motor cortex's natural desire for stability and introduced a chaotic variable. I twitched my radial nerve. Spasm. The spoon jerked violently to the left. Clatter. It hit the rim of the bowl. The soup didn't just spill, it erupted. A wave of hot red sludge sloshed over the side, soaking into the tablecloth and pouring directly onto my lap. The heat was instantaneous. It seared through my trousers, scalding my thighs. I didn't yelp. I sat there, letting the burn register, letting my hand continue to twitch rhythmically, like a broken escapement mechanism kicking back against the power train. David dropped his fork. It hit his plate with a sharp ching. He didn't ask if I was burned. He didn't grab a napkin. He threw his head back and let out a groan that sounded like a teenager being asked to take out the trash, not a 40-year-old man watching his father suffer.
"Jesus, Dad," David shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "Look at that! Look at the mess!" I looked down, letting my jaw go slack. I'm sorry, Davy. My hand, it jumped. "It's always jumping," David snapped. He grabbed his napkin and threw it, not to me, but at me. It landed on the table, uselessly soaking up the edge of the puddle. "You're useless, you know that? You can't even eat soup without turning it into a disaster area. How are we supposed to live like this?" I watched him. I watched the boy I had carried on my shoulders at the zoo. I watched the man whose college tuition I had paid for by selling my collection of vintage pocket watches. I looked for a flicker of sympathy. I looked for the son who used to bring me Band-Aids when I cut my finger on a lathe. There was nothing. Just irritation. Just the cold, hard calculation of inconvenience. "David, babe, relax," Candy said, but her voice wasn't soothing. It was bored. She didn't look up from her phone. Her thumb was scrolling methodically, swiping up, swiping up, swiping up. The blue light from the screen illuminated her face, making her heavy makeup look like a plastic mask. "He can't help it. He's breaking down. It's what old things do." "He's ruining the rug," David whined. "That soup is going to stain." I'll clean it," I stammered, making a show of trying to stand up. I gripped the edge of the table, shaking my arms violently. The water glass in front of me rattled against the wood. "Sit down," David barked. "You'll just knock more shit over." I sat. The soup was cooling on my legs, turning sticky and cold. The burn was throbbing, a sharp, rhythmic pain that helped me focus. I had been practicing this tremor for a month. It's harder than it looks. To be still requires tension. To shake requires a specific kind of release, followed by a rapid contraction. It is a tiring performance. But I had realized something crucial. When people think you are losing control of your body, they assume you have already lost control of your mind. They become careless. They speak freely. They stop whispering. "We can't keep doing this," Candy said, finally looking up from her screen. She took a bite of her steak, chewing slowly, staring at me with the dead eyes of a predatory fish. "I can't have him in here during the day. I have clients coming next week. I'm launching my wellness brand, David. Candy Core. I need the space." "I know, babe," David said, his voice instantly dropping from aggression to submission. He was terrified of her. I had watched her chip away at his spine for 2 years until there was nothing left but jelly. "But what do we do? Put him in a home?" "Too expensive," Candy said immediately. "You saw the rates. $6,000 a month for the cheap ones. That's our money, David. That's the investment capital for the crypto portfolio. That's the lease on the G-Wagon." Our money. I looked at the grandfather clock in the corner,
I had bought this house in 1985. I had paid off the mortgage in 1999. The deed was in my safe. But 2 years ago, when Candy moved in, David had convinced me to add his name to the title for estate planning purposes. "Just in case something happens, Dad," he had said. "It'll save on taxes." I was a master of mechanics, not law. I had trusted the gear because it was part of the machine. I hadn't realized the gear was stripped. "Well, he can't stay in this room," Candy said, gesturing around the dining room, which connected to the downstairs master bedroom, my bedroom. "This has the best light. I need this for the yoga studio. I need to set up the ring lights and the mats. I can't have him drooling in the background of my TikToks." David looked at me, then at Candy. He looked torn for exactly 1 second. Then he looked at the half-eaten steak on his plate. "Where do we put him?" David asked. Candy smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a cat that has cornered a mouse and realizes the mouse has no exit. "The basement," she said. I froze. I didn't have to fake that. "The basement?" David hesitated. "Babe, it's unfinished. The floor is concrete. It floods when it rains. There's no heat down there." "So put a space heater down there," Candy shrugged. She picked up her wine glass. "Look at him, David. He's shaking apart. He doesn't know where he is half the time. He spills food on himself like a baby. Does he really need a master suite with a walk-in closet? He needs a cot and a bucket." She turned her gaze to me. Her eyes were empty of humanity. They were calculators totaling up a sum. "Besides," she added, "it's quieter down there. He won't wake us up with his noises, and he can tinker with his little toys without cluttering up my house." My house. I waited for David to defend me. I waited for him to say, "No, that's my father. That's the man who built this house. We can't put him in a damp cellar like a storage box." David looked at me. He saw the soup stain on my crotch. He saw the trembling hand resting on the table. He saw the weakness I had projected to test him. He didn't see the trap. He only saw the burden. "Okay," David said quietly. He didn't look me in the eye. He looked at Candy's cleavage. "Okay, we'll move him tomorrow." "Good," Candy said. She went back to her phone. "Now, someone clean up this mess. It smells like a nursing home in here." I sat there as the silence returned, broken only by the sound of Candy typing and the tick-tock of the clock in the hall. My hand was still shaking on the table, but inside, deep in the core of my chest, something had stopped moving. The mainspring of my love for my son had finally snapped. It recoiled with a violent, silent energy. I looked at the soup soaking into my trousers. I felt the burn. The basement, I thought. They wanted to put me in the dark. They wanted to put me underground, out of sight, out of mind. They forgot one thing about the dark. It's where I do my best work. It's where the tools are. I let out a shaky, pathetic whimper, playing the part to the bitter end. But as I lowered my head, hiding my eyes, I wasn't crying. I was calculating the square footage of the basement. I was cataloging the inventory of my workbench. I was planning. If they wanted a monster in the basement, I would be happy to oblige. The basement is a tomb. It is a subterranean box of unfinished concrete and neglected intentions. The air down here is heavy, sitting in the lungs like a wet wool blanket. It smells of mildew, wet cardboard, and the metallic tang of old copper piping. I have been here for 3 months, 90 days, 2,160 hours. I sit on the edge of the cot they set up for me. It's a camping cot, the canvas stretched tight over an aluminum frame. It offers no support for a 70-year-old spine, but that doesn't matter. I don't sleep much anyway. Sleep is for the innocent and the safe. I am neither. I pull the thin, scratchy blanket tighter around my shoulders. It is always cold down here. The thermostat upstairs is set to a tropical 72 degrees for Candy's hot yoga sessions, but heat rises. The basement remains a steady, bone-aching 55. My eyes adjust to the gloom. The only light comes from a single naked bulb hanging from a rafter, swaying slightly from the vibrations of footsteps on the floorboards above. Thump, thump, thump. That's David. He walks heavy on his heels. Click, clack, click. That's Candy. Even indoors, she wears heels. She likes the height. She likes looking down on things.
I turn my head to the corner of the room. This is the torture. This is the true punishment. When they moved me down here, they moved my life's work with me. Get that junk out of the dining room, Candy had ordered. My workbench, a solid slab of imported mahogany I bought in 1978 from a retiring master in Geneva. It has the scars of 1,000 projects, burn marks from soldering irons, tiny indentations from dropped pinions. It is a holy altar of horology. They shoved it into the far corner, directly underneath the main waterline for the master bathroom. There is a slow, rhythmic leak. A joint has failed. A plumber could fix it in 10 minutes with a wrench and a roll of Teflon tape, but David is not a plumber, and Candy doesn't go into the basement. Plink. A drop of gray water falls from the pipe. Plink. It lands on the bed of my Schaublin 70 lathe. This isn't a tool. It is a precision instrument. It is calibrated to tolerances of 1,000th of a millimeter. It is worth more than Candy's car. I watch the water hit the steel. I can't move it. The bench is too heavy for me to shift alone, and if I ask David for help, he'll just complain that I'm nagging him. So I watch. I watch the water bead up. I watch it break the surface tension. I watch the oxygen in the water react with the iron in the steel. Rust. It's a cancer. It starts as a microscopic orange bloom. It eats into the hardened steel, pitting the surface, destroying the trueness of the bed. Every drop is a hammer blow to my soul. I have tried to cover it with plastic bags, but the dampness gets underneath. The humidity down here is murder on high-carbon steel. My files are turning orange. My tweezers are spotting. I am watching my legacy corrode in real time. My stomach growls. A deep, hollow sound that echoes in the quiet. I sniff the air. The vents from the kitchen carry the truth downward. Rosemary, thyme, seared animal fat, red wine reduction. They are having a roast tonight, probably a prime rib. David loves prime rib. I taught him how to cook it. Low and slow, Davy, let the fat render. My mouth waters. Not the polite salivation of an appetite, but the painful, cramping desire of a starving animal. I haven't had a hot meal in 4 days. Too much sodium is bad for your heart, Arthur, Candy had said when she stopped bringing me leftovers. And you make such a mess. The door at the top of the stairs creaks open. A rectangle of warm, golden light spills down the wooden steps, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the cold air. Hello? I call out. My voice is raspy. I pitch it up, making it sound weak. David, is that you? Shut up, Arthur. Candy's voice floats down. It's light, airy, and venomous. She descends the stairs. She is wearing a white cashmere sweater and leggings. She looks pristine. She looks expensive. She is holding a paper plate in one hand and her phone in the other. She stops 3 steps from the bottom. She never comes all the way down to the concrete. It might scuff her boots. Dinner time, she says. She tosses the plate. It's not a throw. It's a frisbee toss. The plate sails through the air, flutters, and lands face down on the concrete floor about 5 feet from my cot. A single ham sandwich slides out. 2 slices of Wonder Bread, 1 slice of processed ham, no mustard, no mayonnaise. The bread is stiff at the edges. It's stale. Oops, Candy giggles. She doesn't look sorry. She takes a photo of me sitting on the cot, wrapped in my blanket. The flash blinds me for a second. What is this? I ask, my hand shaking as I point to the sandwich on the floor. It's a sandwich, genius, she says. Eat up, Shaky. You need your strength. I smell roast beef, I whisper. I'm very hungry, Candy. She sighs, a long, exaggerated exhalation of breath. Oh my God, you are so ungrateful. We cook for you, we house you, we take care of you, and all you do is complain. The roast is for us. You have strict dietary needs, Dr. Candy's orders. She smiles. Besides, you just choke on the meat. We're doing you a favor. She turns to go back up the stairs. Wait, I say. The pipe, please. The water, it's ruining my tools. She stops and looks at the workbench in the corner. She looks at the lathe, currently glistening with condensation and drip water. "Those old things," she sneers. "Who cares? They're just junk metal, Arthur. When you kick the bucket, we're calling 1-800-GOT-JUNK anyway. Maybe the water will help break them down faster." She laughs. It's a bright, happy sound. "Good night, Arthur. Don't stay up too late making your weird clicking noises." She walks up the stairs. The door slams shut. The lock clicks.
I am alone again. I stare at the sandwich on the floor. Dirt from the concrete is sticking to the white bread. I should leave it. I should starve rather than eat it. That's what a man with dignity would do. But I am not a man right now. I am a machine running on reserve power. I slide off the cot. My knees crack. I crawl across the cold floor. I pick up the sandwich. I brush off the worst of the grit. I take a bite. It is dry. It tastes like cardboard and salt. It is hard to swallow without water. I chew slowly. As I eat, I look back at the lathe. Plink! Another drop hits the bed. I swallow the bread. Rust is an oxidation process. It is the result of neglect and environmental hostility. It weakens the structure. It turns strong iron into brittle powder. Candy thinks I am rusting. She thinks I am the lathe. She thinks I am pitting, flaking, and dissolving into nothingness.
She is wrong. I am not the steel. I am the observer. I finish the sandwich. I wipe the crumbs from my beard. I stand up. I walk to the workbench. I don't limp. I don't shake. I pull a plastic tarp from under the bench, one I've been hiding, and carefully drape it over the lathe, angling it so the water runs off into a bucket I've positioned silently on a rag. I check the corrosion. It's surface level, polishable, recoverable. I look at the ceiling, directly at the spot where the dining room is. I can hear the muffled sounds of clinking silverware and laughter. They are enjoying the roast. I calculate the corrosion rate of my patience. Iron oxidizes slowly, but vengeance? Vengeance is like a mainspring being wound too tight. Every turn adds potential energy. Every insult adds tension. I am not rusting. I am winding up. And when the spring releases, the force will be enough to shatter everything they have built. I sit back on the cot and wait for the house to go to sleep. I have work to do. The sky broke open on Tuesday. It wasn't just rain, it was a deluge, a relentless hammering assault that turned the backyard into a swamp and the basement walls into weeping sores. The leak over my lathe sped up from a drip to a steady trickle. I spent the morning moving buckets, a pathetic dance of containment, shuffling across the concrete to empty one pail into the utility sink before the other overflowed. The air pressure dropped. Usually the damp cold makes my joints ache, makes the performance of the shakes easier because the pain is real. But today, the atmosphere was different. It was electric, volatile. I was sitting at my small folding table, trying to clean a rusted escapement file with a scrap of sandpaper. It was futile work, but it kept my hands busy. It kept my mind from rotting. Above me, the heavy oak door to the kitchen flew open. It slammed against the wall with a violence that shook dust from the rafters. "God damn it!" Candy's voice, shrill, angry. She came stomping down the stairs. Thud, thud, thud. She wasn't wearing her usual indoor heels. She was wearing heavy black combat boots, some designer brand with chunky soles, meant to look rugged for Instagram but costing more than my first car. They were caked in thick clay-like mud. She must have been out in the yard, maybe trying to film a rain-themed workout, or checking on the landscaping she was ruining. She reached the bottom landing. She didn't look at me. To her, I was just furniture, a lamp that occasionally flickered. "This house is a piece of crap, Arthur," she yelled at the air, or maybe at me. "The gutters are overflowing, there's mud everywhere, I almost slipped on the patio."
She stood there, vibrating with entitlement. Water dripped from her raincoat, pooling on the concrete. But it was the boots that bothered her. She lifted one foot, inspecting the thick clods of brown earth stuck to the tread and the leather. Ugh, gross! She looked around the basement. Her eyes scanned the room for something to clean herself with. She saw the towel I used for my face, but it was damp and gray. She saw my bed sheets, but they were too far away. Then her eyes landed on the shelf next to my workbench. I stopped sanding. My heart hammered a warning rhythm against my ribs. On that shelf, cleared of dust and debris, sat a small silver picture frame, a black and white photo of Sarah, my wife, taken on our wedding day in 1974. She was laughing, her head thrown back, a cascade of white lace tumbling around her shoulders. Next to the frame, folded into a perfect square inside a sealed clear plastic preservation bag, was that lace. Her wedding veil. It was the only thing I had saved from the fire sale of my life upstairs. I kept it sealed to protect it from the basement damp. It was pristine. It was the only clean, pure thing in this hellhole. Candy took a step toward the shelf. "No," I whispered. It was involuntary. She didn't hear me, or she didn't care. She reached out. Her manicured nails painted a jarring neon pink clawed at the shelf. She grabbed the plastic bag. "Don't," I said, louder this time. I started to rise from my chair. "Candy, please, that's Sarah's." She looked at me then, a look of genuine confusion, as if the toaster had just spoken to her. "What?" she snapped. She ripped the plastic bag open. The seal popped. The sound was like a gunshot in the small room. She pulled out the silk. It cascaded down, light as air, white as snow. Chantilly lace, hand-embroidered. I remembered the day we bought it. I remembered the way it felt between my fingers 40 years ago. "Stop!" I shouted. I lunged forward. I forgot to limp. I forgot to shake. I was too slow. Candy lifted her heavy, mud-caked boot onto the bench of my lathe, scuffing the metal I had just cleaned, and brought the veil down. She didn't dab. She scrubbed. She drove the delicate vintage silk into the deep treads of her boot. She ground the white lace into the brown, sticky clay. She twisted it, working it back and forth like a mechanic wiping grease off a dipstick. I froze. I stood 3 feet away from her, my hand outstretched, suspended in the air. The sound was nauseating, the wet squelch of mud, the tearing sound of delicate fabric snagging on the rubber sole. She cleaned the left boot. Then she switched to the right. She used a clean section of the veil to wipe the leather upper, smearing a streak of brown sludge across the intricate floral pattern. When she was done, her boots were gleaming black again. The veil was a ruined brown rag, a sodden lump of desecrated memory. She looked at it, then looked at me. She saw the look on my face. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker of recognition, a realization of what she had done. Then she shrugged. "Oops," she giggled, a hollow, vapid sound. "My bad. I thought it was a dust sheet or something. Why do you have old rags in a bag anyway?" She didn't wait for an answer. She tossed the veil onto the floor. It landed with a wet plait in a puddle of leak water. "Clean that up, would you? I don't want mud tracking everywhere." She turned and walked back to the stairs. "Oh, and Arthur?" she called over her shoulder, pausing at the bottom step. "David needs $5,000. He's going to ask you about your pension check later. Be a dear and just sign it over, okay? We're trying to build a future here." She stomped up the stairs. The door slammed. The lock clicked. I stood there for a long time. The silence of the basement returned, broken only by the relentless plink, plink, plink of the water torture. I looked down at the veil. It was destroyed. There was no bleaching that out. The delicate fibers were torn. The mud was ground in deep. I fell to my knees, not from weakness, but from gravity. I reached out and picked up the ruin. It was cold and slimy. I should have been crying. I should have been wailing. That was the last piece of Sarah I had. That was the symbol of the only pure love I had ever known. But my eyes were dry. I looked at my hands. They were holding the muddy silk. I stared at my fingers. They were perfectly still. For
For 3 months, I had forced them to dance. I had simulated the misfiring neurons of a degenerative disease. I had concentrated on the chaotic rhythm of the tremor. But now there was no chaos. Chaos requires energy. Grief requires energy. I didn't have grief anymore. It had been scrubbed away, just like the white of the lace. What replaced it was something much simpler, something purely mechanical. Rage, but not the hot, screaming rage of a man in a bar fight. This was the cold, absolute zero of deep space. It was the stillness of a sniper holding his breath. It was the absolute rigidity of a steel beam bearing a load. I squeezed the veil. Dirty water dripped from my fist. My hand did not shake. Not a millimeter. Not a micron.
"A dust sheet," I whispered to the empty room. My voice was different. The rasp was gone. The hesitation was gone. I stood up. I walked to the trash can. I didn't throw the veil away. I walked past the trash can to my workbench. I took a clear plastic container, the kind I used for storing caustic solvents. I placed the muddy veil inside. I sealed the lid. I wasn't keeping it as a memento. I was keeping it as evidence, as fuel. I looked at the lathe. I looked at the rust. I looked at the ceiling where they were walking, breathing, eating, and living on the corpse of my life. I had been planning to survive. I had been planning to wait them out, maybe get back upstairs one day when they grew bored. That plan was obsolete. I walked over to the grandfather clock movement I had been tinkering with in the corner. I reached behind the dial and pulled out a small notebook. I opened it to a fresh page. I picked up a pen. I didn't grip it like an invalid. I gripped it like a weapon. I wrote 4 words. The ink flowed smooth and dark, the lines sharp and aggressive. Burn it all down. I looked at the words. Then I looked at the ceiling again. Candy wanted a future? She wanted to build something? No. They didn't just need to leave. Eviction was too kind. Jail was too safe. They needed to be erased. They needed to be dismantled piece by piece, gear by gear, until there was nothing left but a pile of scrap metal and regret. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. My heart rate had slowed. My breathing was deep and rhythmic. I was no longer Arthur the Burden. I was no longer Dad the ATM. I was the watchmaker, and I had just decided that their time had officially run out. I sat down at the bench. I pulled the high-gain microphone receiver from its hiding spot. I put the earpiece in. "Let's see what you're afraid of," I whispered. The static cleared. I heard voices upstairs. The hunt had begun.
The arrogance of youth is a dangerous thing, but the arrogance of stupidity, that is a fatal flaw. David and Candy believe I am a relic. To them, I am a rusted gear that has slipped its teeth, spinning uselessly in the corner of their lives. They see the tremor in my hand, a fabrication. They see the blank stare, a mask. They see the drool I occasionally let slip when I want them to leave the room, a tactic. They forget who I am. They forget that for 4 decades, I was the man museums called when a 200-year-old automaton stopped singing. They forget that I can file a piece of steel down to a tolerance of 3 microns, thinner than a red blood cell. They forget that my entire life has been dedicated to the invisible, intricate machinery that makes the world tick. They think because I cannot carry a soup bowl, I cannot wire a circuit. I adjust the frequency dial on the receiver sitting on my workbench. It's a small black box, scavenged from an old FM radio and modified. I press the earpiece into my ear canal. It fits snugly, sealing out the drip, drip, drip of the leaking pipe. Static hisses like rain. Then a sharp pop, and the audio clears. I am inside the living room.
3 days ago, while they were out at a power brunch to celebrate Candy's 400th Instagram follower, I shuffled upstairs. I didn't go to the fridge. I didn't go to the bathroom. I went to the fireplace mantel. Sitting there was a Seth Thomas mantel clock, circa 1880, walnut case, brass movement. It hadn't run in years. Candy kept it only because it looked vintage chic. It took me 4 minutes to open the back.
I didn't just oil the dried-up pivots. I pulled a dismantled baby monitor, the high-end kind with extreme audio sensitivity, out of my pocket. I had fished it out of the neighbor's trash a week prior. I stripped the plastic casing. I wired the microphone directly into the acoustic chamber of the clock. The brass shell of the clock acts as a parabolic reflector, amplifying sound waves. It essentially turned the mantel clock into a giant, passive ear. I set the clock to 12 o'clock, wound the strike train but not the time train, and closed the case. Now, I sit in the dark, my eyes closed, listening to the play unfold. I can't believe this is happening. It's David. He's pacing. I can hear the heavy thud of his heels on the hardwood floor. Thump, turn, thump, turn. He's walking a tight circle in front of the fireplace.
Will you stop moving? Candy's voice cuts through. She is stationary, probably on the sofa. You're making me dizzy, and you're blocking my light. Candy, are you listening to me? David's voice cracks. It's high, thin, and vibrating with panic. He called me again, 10 minutes ago, while we were in the driveway. Who called you? That lone guy? Not a lone guy, Candy. It's Vinny. Vinny the Vice. I pause. Vinny the Vice. It sounds like a character from a bad comic book, but in the underworld of high-interest street loans, nicknames are rarely ironic. They are descriptive. Okay, so pay him, Candy says, the sound of a page turning audible. A magazine. She is reading a magazine while her boyfriend hyperventilates. With what? David screams. With what money, Candy? The crypto wallet is empty. You told me that coin was going to the moon. It went to the center of the earth. We lost everything. The savings, the line of credit, everything. It's a correction, David. It'll bounce back. You just have to hold. I can't hold. David sounds like he's choking. The deadline is Friday. That's 2 days away. 2 days. Do you know what he said to me? Silence. I can hear David's ragged breathing. He asked me if I use my thumbs for work. I feel a cold ripple of satisfaction move through me. Not sympathy. Sympathy is for family. David ceased to be family when he let that woman use his mother's veil as a rag. He's gonna take my thumbs, Candy. He said he's gonna use a pair of rusted pruning shears. He was specific. Ew, Candy says. That's dramatic. It's not dramatic. It's the mob, or the mafia, or whatever the hell they are. I borrowed $250,000 from a shark because you said we could double it in a week. Don't put this on me, Candy snaps. Her voice loses its bored affect. It becomes sharp, defensive. You signed the paper. You wanted the G-Wagon. You wanted the lifestyle. You're the man, David. Fix it. How? How do I fix $250,000 in 48 hours? There is a long pause. I listen to the room tone, the hum of the refrigerator in the next room, the distant sound of a car passing on the street. Then Candy speaks. Her voice is lower now, calculating.
We have assets, she says. The house? David asks. We can't sell the house in 2 days. Dad's name is still on the deed. Even if we forged his signature, the closing takes weeks. Not the house, idiot, the stuff in the house. What stuff? The furniture is IKEA. The TV's leased. The old man's junk, Candy says. I stiffen in my chair. My hand hovers over the volume dial, turning it up slightly. His tools? David asks. That rusty crap in the basement? It's worthless. Not the tools, Candy says. The glass case in the study. The watch? The magnum opus, or whatever he calls it, Candy says. I Googled it. Triple axis tourbillon, Swiss movement, gold casing. Do you know what those things go for? Dad said it was a prototype. He said it was priceless. Priceless means expensive, David. I saw one on eBay, not even as fancy as his, going for $300,000. There are collectors in the city, private buyers, guys who don't ask questions about where it came from. You want me to sell the magnum opus? David's voice drops to a whisper. Dad spent 5 years building that. It's his masterpiece. He told me once it was the only thing that proved he existed. Well, does he want to exist, or does he want a son with no hands? Candy retorts. He'll notice. He checks that case every day. He's senile, David, Candy laughs. It's a cruel barking sound. He shakes so bad he can't even hold a spoon. He thinks a ham sandwich is a gourmet meal. If you swap it out with something shiny, he won't know the difference. He's a vegetable waiting to rot. I look at my hands. They are resting on the workbench. Still, calm. I don't know, David wavers. David, Candace says. I hear the rustle of fabric. She must be standing up, moving toward him. Think about Vinny. Think about the shears. Snip, snip. David makes a whimpering sound. Do it tonight, she orders. Find a buyer tomorrow, get the cash, pay Vinny. Then we dump the old man in a state home and sell the house properly. We'll be free, David, rich and free. Okay, David breathes. Okay, I'll take it. Good boy. I hear the sound of a kiss, wet and hollow. I need a drink, David says. I'm going to the store. Do you want anything? Just the money, she says. I hear footsteps leaving the room. The front door opens and closes. Candace turns on the TV. The sounds of a reality show fill the feed. I pull the earpiece out. I sit in the silence of the basement.
So that is the game. They are not just thieves. They are scavengers picking the gold teeth out of a corpse before it's even cold. $250,000. The price of my son's thumbs. The price of my life's work. I look at the shelf above my workbench. The magnum opus isn't in the study upstairs. It hasn't been for a week. The watch in the glass case upstairs is a decoy I put there when I first noticed Candy eyeing it. It's a decent replica casing, housing a standard mechanical movement I pulled from a broken wall clock. It looks complex enough to fool a layman, but it holds no value. But that's not enough. If David steals the decoy and takes it to a buyer, the buyer will laugh at him. David will come back, angry, perhaps violent. He will search the house. He might find the safe. He might find the real watch. No, that is too messy. I need him to succeed. I need him to walk into that meeting with confidence. I need him to hand over a watch that looks so perfect, so authentic, that the trap snaps shut only when it is too late to escape. I need to give him exactly what he wants. I need to build a lie so beautiful that it destroys him. I reach for my pill bottle. Propranolol. Beta blockers. Used by snipers to lower their heart rate between beats. Used by surgeons to steady their hands from microscopic work. I pop 2 pills into my mouth and swallow them dry. I look at the clock on the wall. 3 a.m. is the witching hour. That gives me 6 hours to prepare. I pull the magnum opus, the real one, from its hiding place inside a hollowed-out stack of National Geographic magazines. I place it on the velvet pad. Then I reach into my junk drawer. I pull out a blister pack containing a plastic digital watch, SpongeBob SquarePants edition. Price tag $4.99. I take my screwdriver. Let's perform some surgery, I whisper. The intel is gathered. The target is confirmed. Now it is time to build the bomb. 3 a.m., the witching hour. The house settles into a deep structural silence. The heating ducts have stopped banging. The refrigerator compressor has hummed itself to sleep. The only sound is the rhythmic dripping in the basement, a metronome counting down the seconds of my life. I am sitting on the edge of my cot. My heart is beating at 78 beats per minute. Too fast. Adrenaline is a poison when you need precision. It causes micro-tremors, invisible to the naked eye, but catastrophic when working with gears the width of a human hair. I reach into the pocket of my flannel pajama bottoms, the ones Candy says make me look homeless, and pull out a small orange prescription bottle. It has my name on it from before the dark times. Propranolol, 40 milligrams. I shake 2 pills into my palm. I dry swallow them. Now I wait. I close my eyes and visualize the chemistry, the beta blockers dissolving in my stomach, entering the bloodstream, hunting down the adrenaline receptors in my heart and blocking them like a bouncer stopping trouble at the door. 10 minutes. My breathing shallows. 15 minutes. The tension in my shoulders evaporates. 20 minutes. I hold my hand out in front of me, bathed in the dim light of the single basement bulb. Yesterday, at dinner, I made this hand dance like a leaf in a gale to spill peas on the floor. Now it is a statue. I spread my fingers. They are rock solid, absolute zero motion. I could balance a coin on the back of my hand and it wouldn't shift for a century.
The protocol is active. I stand up. I don't need the cane. I move to the stairs. I know this house better than they do. I know which tread on the 7th step groans if you step in the center, so I step on the edge, close to the wall. I know the 3rd floorboard in the hallway is loose, so I step over it. I am a ghost in my own kingdom. I drift down the hallway, past the open door of the master bedroom. I hear them. David is snoring, a wet, congested sound. Candy is breathing softly, probably dreaming of followers and validation. They are asleep in my bed, under my roof. I feel a flash of anger, but the beta blockers dampen it instantly. Anger is sloppy. Anger makes your hands shake. I don't need anger right now. I need cold, mechanical execution. I enter the study. Moonlight spills through the bay window, illuminating the room in shades of silver and blue. And there it is, the glass display case. Inside sits the magnum opus. It is a pocket watch, heavy and gold. The case is 18 karat, hand-engraved with a motif of Kronos eating his children, a little joke I thought was funny 5 years ago. Now it feels prophetic. David thinks this is just the expensive watch. He doesn't know that the movement inside, the caliber 99, is a triple-axis tourbillon. It compensates for gravity in all positions. It is a whirlwind of engineering that took me 2,000 hours to design and build. If I simply swapped the whole watch for a cheap fake, the weight would be wrong. David is an idiot, but gold is heavy. If he picks up a light watch, he might notice. Vinny certainly would. No. The trap requires the external shell to be genuine. The deception must be internal. I pick the lock on the case with a tension wrench and a paper clip. It takes 4 seconds. Click. I lift the watch out. It is warm in my hand. It feels like holding my own heart. I carry it to the desk. I turn on the architect's lamp, keeping the beam low and focused. I pull a velvet cloth from my pocket and spread it out. I take out my tools. A case knife. A set of screwdrivers with heads ranging from 0.6 millimeters to 2.0 millimeters. A pair of Dumont No. 2 tweezers. I put the loop in my eye.
Forgive me, I whisper to the machine. I insert the case knife into the groove of the case back. With a precise, controlled twist, I pop it open. The movement is revealed. It is breathtaking. Bridges of German silver, beveled and polished to a mirror finish. Ruby jewels set in gold chatons. And there, pulsing at 3 hertz, the tourbillon cage, rotating on 3 axes. It is a living thing. It is worth a fortune, and I am about to eviscerate it. I begin the surgery. My hands move with a fluidity that would terrify my son. There is no hesitation. I unscrew the case clamps. I locate the stem release button. I pull the winding stem out. I place the palm of my hand over the open case and flip it. The movement drops out into my hand. Heavy, dense, perfect. I set the sole of the watch aside on the velvet. Now, the donor. I reach into my pocket and pull out the donor watch. It's a plastic, battery-operated abomination I bought at the pharmacy for $4.99. It features a cartoon character on the dial. I rip the back off. I pull out the tiny, cheap quartz movement. It is made of stamped plastic and tin. It costs maybe 50 cents to manufacture in a factory in Shenzhen. It runs on a button cell battery. I look at the empty gold case of the magnum opus. I look at the piece of plastic junk.
This is the swap. I place the plastic movement inside the gold case. It doesn't fit, of course. The magnum opus is 42 millimeters. The quartz movement is 20 millimeters. It rattles around like a pebble in a tin can. This is where the clumsy old man persona vanishes completely. I take a tube of modeling clay, non-hardening, from my pocket. I pack the empty space inside the case. The clay adds weight. It mimics the density of the gold and brass I just removed. It holds the tiny plastic movement in the center. I check the dial side. Through the front crystal, it looks okay. The hands are a little short, but to an untrained eye, it just looks like a watch. But there is a problem. The quartz movement uses a battery. It ticks, tick, tick, 1 second at a time. A mechanical tourbillon sweeps. It glides. Vinny knows this. Vinny will look at the second hand and know immediately that this is a fake. David, however, will not. David sees gold. David sees dollar signs. David sees his thumbs staying attached to his hands. I need to make sure the case stays closed until Vinny opens it. I take a small tube of Loctite, red, high strength, permanent. I run a thin bead of the glue around the thread of the case back. I press the back onto the case. I screw it down. The glue bites. In 10 minutes, that case will need a pipe wrench to open. I wipe away the excess glue with a microfiber cloth. I hold the watch up. It looks like the magnum opus. It weighs the same as the magnum opus.
But inside it is dead clay and cheap plastic. I take the real movement, the triple-axis tourbillon, and wrap it gently in the velvet. I will hide this in the hollow leg of my workbench downstairs. It is safe. I place the Trojan horse back into the glass display case. I lock the case. I turn off the lamp. I stand there in the dark for a moment, listening. Tick, tick, tick. The cheap quartz movement echoes inside the gold shell. It sounds tinny. It sounds like a mockery. Perfect, I whisper. I slip out of the study. I glide back down the hall, past the sleeping parasites. I descend the stairs to the basement. The beta blockers are still working. My pulse is slow. My hands are steady. I lie down on my cot. I pull the scratchy blanket up to my chin. I close my eyes. The trap is set. The bait is in the cage. Now all I have to do is wait for the rat to get hungry. I let my hands start to shake again. Practice makes perfect.
The surgery is delicate, but the patient is already dead. I look down at the two objects on the velvet pad. On the left, the caliber 99 triple-axis tourbillon. It is a dense, glistening city of gears. It hums with stored energy. It is the culmination of my life's work, a mechanical representation of order in a chaotic universe. Value? Priceless. Market value? $1 million. On the right, the donor heart. A plastic quartz movement from a SpongeBob watch I bought at Walgreens. It has a tiny copper coil and a cheap battery. Value? $5, maybe less. I pick up the plastic movement with my tweezers. It feels wrong. It's too light. It lacks soul. I lower it into the hollowed-out gold case of the magnum opus. It drops in with a pathetic rattle. The fit is terrible. The quartz movement is 20 millimeters wide. The case interior is 38 millimeters. It's like throwing a pebble into a canyon. In proper watchmaking, you would machine a movement ring, a custom brass spacer to hold the mechanism perfectly in the center. That would take 3 hours on the lathe. I don't have 3 hours, and I don't have the respect. I reach for the tube of industrial adhesive, not the precise optical cement I use for crystals, the cheap, nasty superglue I use for household repairs. I squeeze a massive, ugly glob of clear gel directly into the center of the 18-karat gold case. It pools there, smelling of acrid chemicals. I press the plastic movement into the glue. Squish. I hold it down with a toothpick. I watch the glue ooze around the edges of the cheap plastic. It's a desecration. It's like duct taping a lawnmower engine inside a Ferrari. Stay, I command. The glue sets fast. The movement is stuck. It's crooked by maybe 2 degrees, but David won't notice. He doesn't look at details. He only looks at surfaces. I flip the watch over to check the face. The hands I scavenged from the donor watch are slightly too short for the magnum opus dial. They look ridiculous to me, but they move. Tick, pause, tick, pause, tick. The second hand jumps. It doesn't sweep. It jerks. It's the heartbeat of a dying thing. It's the heartbeat of a fake. Now, for the final touch. I turn the watch over again. The back is still open. The gold case back, the lid that covers the movement, is lying on the desk. The inside surface is polished to a mirror finish. Usually this space is reserved for service marks, tiny scribbles that watchmakers leave to say, "I was here, I fixed this." I pick up my carbide-tipped engraving scribe. It is sharp enough to write on glass. I hold the gold disc under the light. If this plan works, David will never see this. He will hand the watch to Vinny. Vinny will open it.
Vinny will see the plastic. Vinny will see the glue. And then Vinny will look at the lid. I need to make sure the message is clear. I need Vinny to know that this wasn't an accident. This wasn't David being scammed by a third party. This was a deliberate act of sabotage by the owner. I pressed the carbide tip into the soft gold. Scritch. The sound is harsh. I cut deep. I don't use the flowing script of a master engraver. I use jagged block letters. The handwriting of a man who has run out of patience. Time's up. I blow away the gold dust. Time's up. It stares back at me. It is a threat. It is a punchline. It is a death sentence.
I place the lid onto the back of the watch case. I screw it down. I feel the threads bite. I tighten it with the case knife until my knuckles turn white. Then, just to be sure, I add a drop of Loctite to the seam. It is sealed. The magnum opus now looks exactly like $1 million, but it is filled with trash and hate. I wipe the fingerprints off the gold with the edge of my pajama shirt. I place it back on the velvet stand inside the glass display case. I lock the cabinet door. I stand back. The moonlight catches the gold. It looks majestic. "Good luck, David," I whisper. I pack up my tools. I take the real tourbillon movement, wrapped in chamois leather, and slip it into the pocket of my robe. I will secure it in the basement safe later. I leave the study. The walk back to the basement is different. The adrenaline is fading. The beta blockers are metabolizing. By the time I reach the bottom of the stairs, I feel it starting. A twitch in my left thumb. A flutter in my bicep. I sit on the cot. I wrap the thin blanket around me. I hold my hands out. They start to tremble, first a little, then violently. The Parkinson's is returning, but this time I don't have to force it. My body is exhausted. The tension of the surgery has drained me. I let the shakes take over. I let my jaw go slack. I lie down in the dark, listening to the leak. Plink, rust, plink, rust. And upstairs, in the study, the cheap plastic heart of the trap beats in time. Tick, doom, tick, doom. I close my eyes. I sleep like a baby.
I sit on the cot. I wrap the thin blanket around me. I hold my hands out. They start to tremble, first a little, then violently. The Parkinson's is returning, but this time I don't have to force it. My body is exhausted. The tension of the surgery has drained me. I let the shakes take over. I let my jaw go slack. I lie down in the dark, listening to the leak. Plink, rust, plink, rust. And upstairs, in the study, the cheap plastic heart of the trap beats in time. Tick, doom, tick, doom. I close my eyes. I sleep like a baby. Friday. The deadline. The atmosphere in the house is pressurized. It feels like the inside of a diving bell that has descended too deep, the structural integrity groaning under the crushing weight of the water outside. I am positioned in my leather armchair in the corner of the living room. Candy placed me here an hour ago, turning the TV to a channel that plays reruns of 1950s sitcoms. "Watch your shows, Arthur," she said, "and try not to wet yourself." I am putting on the performance of a lifetime. My head is lolled back against the headrest. My mouth is open, slack-jawed. I have allowed a string of saliva to pool at the corner of my lip and track slowly down into my beard. It is humiliating. It is degrading. It is necessary. To the casual observer, I am comatose. I am a sack of biological matter waiting for the inevitable shutdown. But my eyes are slit open just a fraction. Through the haze of my eyelashes, I see everything. I see the clock on the mantel, the one with the microphone inside. It reads 6:58 p.m. I hear the pacing in the hallway. Rapid, frantic footsteps. David enters the room. He looks like a man who hasn't slept in 48 hours, because he hasn't. His skin is gray,
the color of wet ash. His shirt is stained at the armpits with fresh sweat, despite the air conditioning being cranked up. He smells of fear. It's a distinct scent, sour, metallic, like old copper coins. He stops in the doorway and looks at me. I let out a snore, a wet, rattling sound that vibrates in my throat. I twitch my left hand, a spasm of the Parkinson's. David flinches. He stares at me for a long 10 seconds, waiting to see if I wake up. I don't. I continue the rhythm. Snore, rattle, twitch. "Dad?" he whispers. I don't answer. He takes a step closer. "Dad, are you awake?" I let my head roll to the side, facing away from him. I let the drool drip onto my collar. David exhales. It's a shaky, broken breath. He thinks he's clear. He turns his attention to the study door. He knows the magnum opus is in there. He knows the glass case is locked. He walks into the study. I can't see him now, but I can hear him. I know exactly what he's doing. I visualize it as clearly as if I were standing next to him. I hear the creak of the floorboard near the desk. I hear the rattle of the glass case handle. It's locked, of course. I locked it after I planted the bomb. "Damn it," David hisses. I wait for the sound of finesse. I wait for him to look for the key. It's in the top drawer of the desk under a false bottom, but he never looked for it. I wait for him to try to pick it. Instead, I hear violence. Crunch. He didn't break the glass. He forced the lock. He must have jammed a screwdriver or a letter opener into the mechanism and torqued it until the wood gave way. Amateur. I cringe internally. That cabinet was mahogany. Vintage. Another thing he has destroyed because he lacks the patience to understand how it works. There is a pause. He is reaching in. I hear the heavy clunk of the watch stand being knocked over. His hands are shaking. He is clumsy. Then he comes back into the living room. He is holding the magnum opus. He is gripping it tight, his sweaty palms smearing the gold. He isn't holding it by the rim like a gentleman. He is clutching it like a grenade. He stops in front of me again. He looks down at his father. The light from the hallway catches the watch. I see a deep, jagged scratch on the bezel, the gold ring surrounding the crystal. He must have scraped it against the broken lock hasp when he yanked it out. He just damaged the $1 million watch he is trying to sell. If it were real, he would have just knocked $10,000 off the value. But it's not real. It's clay and plastic. David looks at the watch, then at me. His eyes are wet. He looks terrified. He looks like the little boy who broke a window playing baseball, only this time the window costs $250,000 and the neighbor is a loan shark with a pair of shears. "Sorry, Dad," he whispers. His voice trembles. "I have to. You don't need it anymore. You don't even know what time it is." I suppress the urge to open my eyes and say, "I know exactly what time it is, David. It is time to pay." But I remain silent. I let another snore rattle my chest. "I'll buy you a nice bed," he lies to the sleeping man. "At the home. A really nice one." He doesn't sound sorry. He sounds relieved. He sounds like a man who has just unloaded a heavy pack from his shoulders. He thinks he is holding his salvation. He turns and runs. I hear him grab his keys from the bowl in the hall. "Candy, I got it! I'm going!" he yells up the stairs. "Just go!" she screams back from the bedroom. "Don't come back without the receipt!" The front door opens. The front door slams. I hear the engine of his leased BMW roar to life in the driveway. He revs it hard, another sign of his impatience, and tires squeal on the asphalt. He is gone. The silence rushes back into the room to fill the void he left. I sit there for a moment longer, just to be sure. Then the performance ends. I close my mouth. I sit up straight. My spine cracks, realigning. I reach into my pocket and pull out a handkerchief. I wipe the saliva from my chin. I wipe the degradation from my face. I am no longer the vegetable. I am the watchmaker. I look at my wrist. I am wearing a Casio F91W. Simple, digital, indestructible, accurate to plus or minus 30 seconds per month. The display reads 7:02 p.m. David is driving to the warehouse district. It's a 45-minute drive in traffic. He will arrive at roughly 7:50 p.m. The meeting is at 8 p.m. Vinny the Vice is a professional. He will not be late. He will be early. He will be waiting. I stand up and walk to the window. I pull the curtain back slightly and watch the taillights of my son's car fade into the distance. He is carrying a bomb. Not an explosive of gunpowder and fire, but a bomb of expectation and reality. When Vinny opens that case, when he sees the glue, when he reads the inscription, the shockwave won't destroy a building. It will destroy a life. I walk over to the mantel clock, the one with the microphone inside. I tap the brass casing gently. Testing, I whisper. 1, 2. I need to make sure the signal is clear. I want to hear the explosion. I check the time again. 7:05 p.m. 55 minutes until detonation. I feel a strange calm wash over me. It is the calm of a mathematician who has finished the equation and is simply waiting for the peer review. The variables are set. The outcome is inevitable. I go to the kitchen. I open the fridge. I am still hungry. I see the leftover roast beef from the night before. Candy didn't throw it out. She just hid it on the top shelf. I take the platter out. I don't bother heating it. I eat a slice of cold, rare beef with my fingers. It tastes primal. It tastes like strength. I have 1 hour to wait. I decide to go downstairs and clean my lathe. I want everything to be tidy when the police arrive. I am sitting in the dark of my study. The only light comes from the screen of an iPad resting on the mahogany desk. On the screen, a map of the city glows in high-contrast grayscale. A small, pulsing blue dot is moving slowly through the industrial grid of the south side. David's iPhone. It is a profound irony that the tools of control they used to imprison me are now the instruments of their destruction. 6 months ago, Candy insisted we all get on a family sharing plan. Ideally, it was to share subscriptions to streaming services I never watched and cloud storage I never used. In reality, it was a digital leash. She wanted to know where I was at all times, in case the senile old man wandered off and became a liability before they could cash the checks. "It's for your safety, Arthur," she had said, enabling location tracking on my device without asking. They never thought to disable it on theirs. They never thought the senile old man knew how to zoom in on a map interface. I watch the blue dot turn off the main highway and navigate through a maze of service roads. It passes the old textile factories, the rusted rail yards, and finally comes to a stop in the dead end of Sector 4, the warehouse district. 7:58 p.m. He is 2 minutes early.
I lean back in my chair. The house is silent. The magnum opus is gone. The trap has been delivered. I don't have a camera in that warehouse. I don't have a microphone on David's lapel, but I don't need them. I have spent 50 years studying cause and effect. I have spent a lifetime understanding how professionals operate. And Vinny the Vice, he is a professional. I close my eyes. I let the darkness of the room envelop me. I construct the scene in my mind, building it with the same precision I used to build the watch. The simulation. The warehouse is cold. It smells of diesel fumes, wet concrete, and old pallets. The lighting is poor, high-pressure sodium lamps buzzing overhead, casting everything in a sickly, jaundiced yellow. David is standing by his leased BMW. He left the engine running, a rookie mistake. It signals that he wants to flee. It signals fear. A black SUV pulls up. Heavy doors open. Vinny steps out. I've never met Vinny, but I know him. He is a man of physics. He understands leverage. He understands pressure. He is not the screaming ones. The screaming ones are insecure. Vinny is quiet because he holds all the cards. He will have 2 men with him, muscle. They will flank him, arms crossed, watching David's hands.
David is sweating. He is clutching the velvet pouch that contains the watch. "You have it?" Vinny asks. His voice is gravel. Yeah, I got it," David stammers. It's all here, just like I said. The magnum opus. My dad, he's a master. It's worth $1 million, easy." David hands over the pouch. Vinny doesn't take the money out of his pocket yet. Of course not. You don't pay for the car until you pop the hood. Vinny takes the watch. He feels the weight. I smile in the darkness of my study. The weight will be correct. The modeling clay I packed around the plastic movement mimics the density of the brass and gold mechanism perfectly. It feels substantial. It feels expensive. Vinny nods. First test, passed. He holds it up to the light. He looks at the casing. 18-karat gold. Hand engraved. The scene of Kronos devouring his children is sharp, deep, and terrifyingly beautiful. Nice work, Vinny might grunt. David will relax. His shoulders will drop. He thinks he's home free. He thinks the surface is the reality. See? I told you. It's the real deal. So, about the debt. Hold on, kid, Vinny says. He reaches into his jacket pocket. This is the moment David doesn't expect. David thinks a watch is jewelry. Vinny knows a watch is a machine. Vinny pulls out a loupe, a jeweler's magnifying glass. He screws it into his eye. He brings the watch face inches from his face. He looks at the dial. This is where the physics of the trap begins to detonate. A mechanical watch, especially a tourbillon of this caliber, operates at a specific frequency. My magnum opus runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour, or VPH, or 3 Hertz. That means the balance wheel oscillates 6 times per second. When you look at the second hand of a high-end mechanical watch, it doesn't tick, it sweeps. It glides around the dial in a smooth, continuous motion, chopping the second into 6 microsteps that the human eye perceives as a flow. It is liquid time. It is the heartbeat of a living mechanism. A quartz watch, like the $5 plastic trash I glued inside the case, operates differently. It uses a stepping motor. It receives an electrical impulse from the battery exactly once every second. Tick, stop. Tick, stop. Tick, stop. It is a deadbeat. It is the signature of mass production. It is the signature of cheapness. I imagine Vinny's eye magnified behind the loupe. He focuses on the second hand. He waits. Tick. The hand jumps 1 second forward. It lands slightly off the marker because cheap quartz movements have terrible alignment. Backlash. Tick. It jumps again. Stiff, robotic, soulless. Vinny freezes. He knows. He doesn't need to be a master horologist. He deals in stolen Rolexes, Pateks, and Audemars. He knows that $1 million tourbillon does not tick like a kitchen wall clock. He knows he is holding a lie. It's quartz, Vinny whispers. What? David asks, confused. What's quartz? It's gold. Vinny lowers the watch. He looks at David. The look isn't angry yet. It's disappointed. It's the look a butcher gives a cow that tries to kick. It's ticking, kid, Vinny says. It's supposed to tick. It's a watch, David pleads, his voice rising an octave. He doesn't understand. He literally does not possess the knowledge to understand why he is about to die. No, Vinny says. Real watches sweep. Toys tick. Vinny grips the watch tighter. He needs to be sure. Maybe the mechanism is just weird. Maybe it's a deadbeat seconds complication, a very rare, very expensive mechanical feature that mimics quartz. He flips the watch over. He tries to look through the exhibition caseback, but there is no exhibition glass. There is a solid gold lid. He tries to unscrew it. It won't budge. I tightened that caseback with a leverage tool, and I added the Loctite. It's stuck, Vinny growls. It's sealed, for protection. Dad said never open it. Give me your knife, Vinny says to one of his goons. The goon hands him a blade. Vinny jams the knife into the seam. He doesn't care about scratching the gold anymore. He knows it's scrap. He twists. Crack. The Loctite gives way. The caseback spins off. Vinny looks inside. He expects to see a city of gears. He expects to see a whirlwind tourbillon. He expects to see ruby bearings and German silver bridges. Instead, he sees a glob of dried white superglue. He sees a gray lump of modeling clay. He sees a tiny plastic white square stamped with Made in China and a CR2032 battery. It is the ultimate insult. It is a middle finger raised in the face of a man who kills people for disrespect.
And then he sees the inscription. He tilts the gold lid toward the warehouse light. The scratch marks I made with the carbide scribe catch the yellow glow. Time's up. Vinny reads it. He pauses. He processes. He looks at the plastic junk. He looks at the message. He realizes this wasn't David trying to pull a fast one. David is too stupid to write that message. David is currently hyperventilating by the car asking if everything is okay. No, Vinny realizes that someone else set this up. Your daddy knew, Vinny will say.
Reality. I open my eyes. The blue dot on the iPad screen has not moved. It is stationary at the dead end of Sector 4. I look at the time on my digital Casio, 8:08 p.m. The inspection is over. The verdict has been delivered. My phone, the burner phone sitting on the desk, lights up. It vibrates against the wood. Bzzz, bzzz. It is the midnight chime, arriving 4 hours early. I stare at the phone. I don't answer it on the first ring. I let it ring. I imagine David's face right now. I imagine the realization crashing down on him, not the technical realization of quartz versus mechanical, but the emotional realization that his father, the useless old man, has just orchestrated his execution from a basement cot.
He wanted the inheritance. He wanted the value of my life's work. I gave it to him. I gave him the exact value he placed on me. A hollow shell filled with garbage. The phone rings a third time. I reach out. My hand is steady. I pick it up.
Hello? Dad!
The scream is so loud I have to pull the phone away from my ear. The game is over. The hunt is finished. Now we just have the slaughter. I take a deep breath. I prepare my voice. I need to sound confused. I need to sound like a man waking up from a nap. But inside, I am ticking. Tick, tick, boom.
The phone vibrates against the mahogany desk. It is a mechanical insect dancing a death rattle. I let it ring 3 times. In the world of negotiation, silence is leverage. If you answer too fast, you look eager. If you wait too long, you look absent. 3 rings is the sweet spot. It suggests you were busy doing something more important than saving your son's life. I pick it up. Hello? My voice is groggy. I channel the Arthur of 3 months ago, the confused, battered old man who spills soup. Dad! Dad, pick up! Oh, God, please! The voice is unrecognizable. It is shredded. It is the sound of a vocal cord pushed beyond its elastic limit. Who is this? I ask, rubbing my eyes, though I am wide awake. It's me! It's David! He is sobbing. I hear the distinct wet sound of snot and tears. Dad, listen to me. The watch. They say it's fake. They say it's a toy. You have to tell them, Dad. Tell them you made it. I lean back in my chair. I look at the empty space on the velvet pad where the real magnum opus used to sit. The watch? I mumble. David? Why do you have the watch? It's supposed to be in the case. I stole it, okay? I stole it. David screams. He is confessing to a felony and he doesn't even care. But that doesn't matter. Vinny says it's quartz. He says it's plastic. Tell him about the tourbillon. Tell him about the axes.
There's a scuffle. The phone fumbles. I hear wind. I hear the distant hum of the highway. Then the voice changes. Old man. It is Vinny. The voice matches the imagination. Gravel, cigarettes, and a complete lack of empathy. I'm listening, I say. I drop the senile act slightly, just enough to be lucid. Your kid here, Vinny says, sounding almost bored, tried to pass off a swap meet piece of junk for a $250,000 debt. Now I'm a reasonable businessman. I know people make mistakes, but this? He pauses. I hear a metallic click in the background. A lighter? Or the safety of a pistol. This is an insult, Vinny continues. I'm looking at the second hand. It's ticking, Pops. Tick, tick, tick. It's a battery toy. You trying to insult me? You trying to play games with my money? I don't play games, I say softly. I build clocks. My dad is a master, David screams in the background.
He sounds far away, like he's on his knees. He spent 5 years on it. Open the back. Just open the back, Vinny. You'll see the gold. You'll see the gears. Shut him up, Vinny orders someone else.
There's a thud, a groan. David goes silent. All right, Vinny says to me. The kid says open the back. I'm going to open the back. And if I see anything other than Swiss engineering in there, I'm going to start removing parts from your boy, starting with the ones he uses to count. I hold my breath. This is it. I hear the sound of metal scraping on metal. Vinny is using the knife. He is digging into the soft 18-karat gold seam. It's tight, Vinny grunts. Glued shut? Use the pliers, someone says. Crunch. The sound transfers clearly over the phone line. The seal breaks. The caseback spins off. Silence. The warehouse on the other side of town must be deathly quiet. What is this? Vinny whispers. He isn't talking to me. He's talking to the object in his hand. It's clay, the other goon says. It's Play-Doh and glue, Vinny says. Look at that. A glob of superglue holding a... What is that? A SpongeBob movement?
I can hear the disbelief. Vinny has seen scams before. He's seen fake Rolexes. He's seen gold-plated lead. But he has never seen a solid gold casing filled with literal garbage. "Dad?" David whimpers. He must have raised his head. "Did you see the gears? Is it beautiful?" Vinny laughs. It is a dry, terrifying sound. It is the sound of a man who has suddenly understood the punchline of a very dark joke. "Oh, it's beautiful, all right," Vinny says. "Hey, kid, look at this." "What?" David asks. "Look at the lid. Your daddy left a note." I close my eyes. I can see it. The gold disc reflecting the warehouse lights, the jagged, angry scratches of the carbide scribe. "Times," David reads. His voice trembles. "Times up." "Times up," Vinny repeats. The silence stretches. It hangs heavy over the connection, a bridge of tension spanning the miles between the basement and the warehouse. "He knew," David whispers. The realization is slow, creeping over him like cold water. He knew I would take it." "He didn't just know," Vinny says into the phone. His voice is different now. There is no anger. There is a strange, twisted respect. He packed it. He glued it. He signed it. Vinny pauses. I can feel him smiling. "You aren't senile, are you, old man?" Vinny asks. I say nothing. "You sat there," Vinny continues, "and you watched him steal a bomb. You let him walk out the door with a death sentence in his pocket." "Is the watch real?" I ask. My voice is cold, flat. "The case is real gold, Vinny, melted down. It's worth $3,000. That should cover the interest." "And the principal?" Vinny asks. "The $250? Talk to the debtor," I say. He's right there. "Dad!" David screams. It's a primal sound, a sound of total betrayal. "How could you? I'm your son!" "You're a thief," I say, "and a bad one." Vinny laughs again. Cold, ice cold. "I like you, Pops. You got style." He sighs. I hear the rustle of leather. He's putting the watch in his pocket. "Well," Vinny says, "business is business. The collateral is a bust, the cash is non-existent, and the cosigner just revoked his guarantee." "No!" David screams. "No, please, Vinny! I can get the money. We can sell the house. Candy! Call Candy!" "Your daddy sent you here to die, kid," Vinny says. His voice is low, intimate. "He didn't just cut you off. He served you up." "I don't know who this is," I say, repeating the line from the very beginning, closing the loop. "My son is in bed."
"Yeah," Vinny says. "He's about to be." I hear the distinct sound of a car trunk popping open. "Get the shovel," Vinny says to the goon. "Dad!" I pull the phone away from my ear. David's scream is piercing. It is the sound of a child realizing the monsters are real, and that the biggest monster of all is the one who raised him. I press the red button. Click. The line goes dead. I place the burner phone on the desk. I sit in the silence. I feel light. For 3 months I have carried the weight of their disdain. I have carried the rust. I have carried the hunger. I have carried the image of Condi wiping mud on Sarah's veil. Now, the weight is gone. Transferred. I look at the grandfather clock. Tick, tock. 8:15 p.m. The transaction is complete.
But I am not done. The ledger is only half balanced. David is gone. He is Vinny's problem now. But Condi is still upstairs. Condi is waiting for the money. I stand up. My legs feel strong. I walk to the door of the study. I need to make one more phone call, but not on the burner. I pick up the house landline, the one they think is disconnected because they never paid the bill. I paid it. I dial 911. Emergency services, the operator says. Yes, I say. My voice trembles, perfect and pathetic. I need the police. My son, he stole my property and ran away, and there is a strange woman in my house. I think she's going to hurt me. I hang up. I walk to the living room. I sit back in my chair. I let my mouth hang open. I wait for the sirens. The second movement has begun. The transaction is complete. The living room is bathed in a strobing wash of red and blue light. It filters through the sheer curtains, pulsing against the walls like a frantic heartbeat. Candy is standing by the window. She is vibrating with anticipation. She thinks the lights are the reflection of David's BMW headlights, or perhaps a private courier he hired to transport the cash. She thinks she is moments away from being a millionaire. Finally, she mutters, smoothing her hair. She grabs her phone, ready to record the unboxing of the money. She opens the front door with a flourish. "Did you get it? Did you—" She stops. It isn't David. It isn't a courier. It is 2 uniformed police officers. Officer Miller, tall, bored, and Officer Rodriguez, short, notebook in hand. "Ma'am," Officer Miller asks, "we received a call about a disturbance. A theft in progress?" Candy blinks. Her brain, wired for validation and victory, cannot process the input. "What? No, there's no theft. We live here. Who called you?" "I did." I shuffle into the hallway. I am leaning heavily on a cane I found in the closet. I am wearing my oversized cardigan, the one with the moth holes. I look small. I look fragile. I look like a gust of wind could knock me over. "Arthur?" Candy spins around, her eyes wide. "What are you doing? Go back to your chair."
I ignore her. I look at Officer Rodriguez. I let my lip tremble. "Officer," I say, my voice cracking perfectly. "Thank God you're here. I didn't know what else to do." "Sir, are you the homeowner?" Rodriguez asks, stepping inside. "He's senile," Candy snaps. She tries to block them with her body. "He doesn't know what he's saying. He has episodes. I'm his caregiver." "She is not my caregiver," I whisper, loud enough for them to hear. She's a squatter, her and her boyfriend, my son." I take a shaky breath. "My son, he took my watch, my grandfather's watch. He ran off with it an hour ago. And she," I point a trembling finger at Candy, "she said if I told anyone, she'd put me in the cellar again." The atmosphere in the room changes instantly. The officers straighten up. The word cellar hits them hard. Elder abuse is a trigger word for law enforcement. It cuts through the civil dispute noise. "That is a lie," Candy screams. Her face flushes a blotchy red. "I treat him like a king. We feed him. We house him." "Do you have proof of residence, ma'am?" Miller asks. His hand rests casually near his belt. "Is your name on the lease, the deed?" "David handles the paperwork," Candy yells. "It's David's house, effectively." "It is not," I say. I reach into the pocket of my cardigan. I pull out a folded, yellow document, the original deed of trust. I retrieved it from the safe while I was waiting for the police. I hand it to Officer Rodriguez. My hand shakes violently as I pass the paper. He has to steady it to read it. "Arthur J. Blackwood," Rodriguez reads. He checks the date, 1985. He looks at me. "Is this you, sir?" "Yes," I say. "Sole owner. I never added David.
I never signed anything.
Rodriguez looks at Candy. His expression hardens. Ma'am, is your name on this title? No, but do you have a rental agreement? We're family. We don't need a... Sir, Rodriguez turns back to me. Do you want this woman in your home? I look at Candy. I look at the woman who fed me stale sandwiches. I look at the woman who wiped her boots on my wife's memory. No, I say. I want her out. Now. I'm afraid of her. Okay, Miller says. He steps toward Candy. Ma'am, you need to leave the premises. The homeowner has revoked his consent. You can't do this, Candy shrieks. She backs away, retreating into the living room. My stuff is here. My yoga mats, my ring lights. You can contact the owner for a civil standby to retrieve your property tomorrow. Right now, you need to exit the dwelling. If you refuse, we will arrest you for trespassing. Candy looks around the room. She looks at the comfortable life she is losing. She looks at the expensive rug she chose. She looks at the mantelpiece where she displayed her influencer awards. Then she looks at me. I am standing behind the officers. I have stopped shaking. I am smiling. It is a very small, very cold smile. She sees it. The realization hits her like a physical slap. The senility, the tremors, the accident with the watch. She knows. You, she hisses, her face twists into a mask of pure, ugly hate. You old bastard, you planned this. Ma'am, let's go, Miller says, reaching for her elbow. No, she screams. She lashes out. She isn't thinking clearly. She wants to hurt me. She wants to break something of mine before she is forced out. Her eyes dart to the shelf in the corner. The jar, the clear plastic container holding the muddy, ruined remains of Sarah's wedding veil. She knows I kept it. She knows it's the only thing I have left. I'll trash your whole life, she screams. She lunges. She breaks away from Miller. She sprints toward the shelf, her hand reaching out to grab the jar and smash it against the hardwood floor. She is fast. I am faster. I drop the cane. I take 2 long, fluid strides. I don't shuffle. I glide. Just as her fingers brush the plastic of the jar, my hand shoots out. I catch her wrist in midair. My grip is not the grip of an invalid. It is the grip of a machinist. It is the grip of a man who tightens vices for a living. I squeeze. I feel the radius and ulna bones grind together under her skin. She gasps. The air leaves her lungs in a shocked whoosh. She tries to pull back, but she is anchored. I am a statue. I am immovable. The officers are moving toward us, shouting, "Hey, break it up!" But for 1 second, we are alone in the universe. I pull her face close to mine. I stare into her eyes. There is no cataract haze in my gaze now. There is only clarity. My hand is perfectly still. Iron. Touch her things again, I whisper. My voice is low, a subsonic rumble that the police cannot hear over their own shouting. Touch her things again, and I won't call the police. I will send you to where David is. Candy's eyes go wide. The pupils dilate in sheer terror. She hears the past tense, where David is. She realizes David isn't coming back with the money. She realizes David isn't coming back at all. He's, she stammers, gone, I mouth. I release her wrist. I shove her backward, stumbling right into the arms of Officer Miller. I immediately slump my shoulders. I raise my hands defensively. I let the tremor return to my fingers. She tried to hit me, I cry out, my voice wavering. She tried to break my wife's picture. Miller spins her around. He slams her against the wall. He's had enough. That's it. You're out. Now. Candy doesn't fight him. She is limp. She is staring at me, her face drained of all color. She looks like she has seen a ghost. He's a monster, she whispers to the cop. He's not sick. He's a monster. Yeah, tell it to the judge, Miller grunts. He marches her to the door. She doesn't grab her coat. She doesn't grab her purse. She just wants to get away from the man with the iron grip. They shove her out onto the porch. Don't come back tonight or you go to jail, Rodriguez yells. The door slams shut. I hear her footsteps running down the driveway. She is running in her heels, click-clack, fading into the night. I stand in the silence of the hallway. Officer Rodriguez turns to me. He sighs. "I'm sorry about that, Mr. Blackwood. Some people, they just don't have any respect." He picks up my cane from the floor and hands it to me. "Are you going to be okay here alone tonight, sir? Do you have anyone else to call?" I take the cane. I lean on it, though my legs are perfectly capable of supporting me. "I'll be fine, officer," I say. I prefer the quiet. It helps me think. "Okay, lock the deadbolt behind us." They leave. I lock the deadbolt. Click. I engage the chain. Slide. I turn off the porch light. I am alone. The house is mine. The silence is mine. I walk into the living room. I pick up the jar containing the veil. I look at the mud. It is still dirty. That won't change, but the contamination has been removed from the house. I sit down in my leather chair. I am tired. It is a good tired. The kind of tired you feel after a long day at the bench, when the movement is finally reassembled and the heartbeat is strong. I check my watch. 9:15 p.m. Candy is on the street. She has no car. David took it. She has no money. Crypto is 0. She has no coat. And somewhere in the dark, the sharks are swimming. Vinny didn't get his money. Vinny is angry. And Vinny knows Candy's name. David would have screamed it. I close my eyes. The eviction is complete. Now I just have to clean up the mess. The silence is absolute. It is not the heavy, suffocating silence of the tomb the basement used to be. It is the clean, crisp silence of a library, or a cathedral, or a workshop after the machines have been powered down. It is Saturday morning. The sun is streaming through the high windows of the basement. I spent the night working. Sleep seemed unnecessary. When the order of your world has been restored, you want to be awake to witness it. I walk over to the corner. The leak is gone. It took me 10 minutes to fix the pipe David had ignored for months. A simple turn of a wrench, a strip of new Teflon tape, and the drip ceased. The water torture is over. I spent the next 3 hours with a wire brush and a bottle of kerosene. I scrubbed the bed of my Chaublin lathe until my shoulders burned. The orange cancer of the rust is gone. The steel gleams again. Scarred, perhaps, but functional. Hardened. The air no longer smells of mildew or Candy's cloying cheap perfume. It smells of WD-40, brass shavings, and old dust. It smells like home. I sit down at my workbench. My back is straight. My hands rest on the mahogany surface, steady and capable. To my right sits a crystal tumbler filled with 2 fingers of Macallan 18. I retrieved the bottle from the back of the pantry where I had hidden it years ago. It burns pleasantly as it goes down. It is not lukewarm tap water. It is the nectar of survival. In the center of the desk, under the halo of the magnifying lamp, sits the real magnum opus. I retrieved the movement from the safe an hour ago. I mounted it on a testing stand. It is naked. No gold case to hide it. No engraving. Just the raw, exposed mechanism. I look at the triple-axis tourbillon. The cage rotates once every 60 seconds on the first axis, every 2 minutes on the second, and every 6 minutes on the third. It is a mesmerizing dance of gold and ruby, defying gravity from every angle. It doesn't tick, it breathes. Whir, click, whir, click. It is the most complex thing I have ever built. It requires perfect balance. If one gear is out of true, if one screw is too loose, the entire system fails. I think about David. I suppose a father should feel something, grief, regret, a sense of loss. I search my internal jagged edges for those feelings. I scan my heart like a mechanic diagnosing an engine block. I find nothing. David wasn't a son. He was a variable I failed to account for. He was a friction point. He was a gear with stripped teeth that kept jamming the mechanism of my life.
In watchmaking, when a part is defective, you don't mourn it. You don't try to negotiate with it. You remove it. You replace it with empty space if you have to, because a machine that doesn't run is useless. David made his choice. He chose the quick fix. He chose the plastic over the gold. He chose the easy lie over the hard truth. He is currently experiencing the consequences of that calculation. I don't know if Vinny killed him. I don't know if he's in a trunk or a ditch or simply working off a lifetime of debt in a back room somewhere. It doesn't matter. He is no longer part of the movement.
I take a sip of the scotch. The ice clinks against the glass, a sharp, clear sound. I pick up the winding key. I insert it into the mainspring barrel of the magnum opus. I turn it. Click. The resistance is firm. Potential energy is being stored. Click. The world upstairs is chaotic. It is full of people like Candy and David, people who want things they didn't earn, people who consume without creating, people who mistake kindness for weakness. It is a messy, unpredictable, rusty place. Click. But a watch is fair. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care about your excuses. It follows the laws of physics. If you build it right, it runs. If you treat it poorly, it breaks. If you fill it with glue and plastic, it stops. Click. The spring is fully wound. The balance wheel swings with renewed vigor. The heartbeat strengthens. I lean back. I watch the tourbillon spin. It will run for 72 hours on this wind. It will keep time to within 1 second a day. I am alone. I am 70 years old. I have no family left. But I have my tools. I have my house. And I have my time. And for the first time in a long time, every second of it belongs to me. I smile. You get exactly the time you deserve. I whisper to the spinning wheel. The watch beats on. Tick, tick, tick.